Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on when you're watching this. I am Lynn Green, as you know, and I have given you a little bit of a hint that I would be having this conversation today. And I am just so very honored to be able to have this talk, this Q&A for the celebration of the 1 year anniversary of my book, Enough with the Secrets Mama. So I'm so excited about that. And the man I will introduce you to here is David Hancock, the one and only founder
Right.
of Morgan James Publishing, who I am so honored to be able to have this conversation with, leading to the 1 year celebration of publishing of my book. And David, please tell the people all about you and about Morgan James.
Well, it's certainly one of my favorite topics, but my other favorite topic is you and the book. So I'm so honored to be here today. That 1 year anniversary, that Pubiversary, I sometimes will call it, is an exciting milestone. And just to see the growth that you've achieved since the book came out and the transformation, which I'm definitely going to deep dive with some questions here in a minute, is pretty exciting and pretty powerful. But yeah, to answer your question or to take that lead, I'm founder of Morgan James. Morgan James Publishing is an unconventional publisher where I think Publishers Weekly back in the day called us the first hybrid publisher. We just work differently with authors. Our authors retain control of their intellectual property because we think you know more about your message than we know, and we don't want to get in your way. We just want to help elevate your message. So it's very exciting, really exciting to see the book show up in stores across the globe. It's so much fun to see not only a U.S. presence, but a Canadian presence, and then stores popping up, in Europe and other places. So it's really exciting. And that will just continue to grow with your consistent sales and your voice just reaching an audience. This connection that you're giving to your audience is very, very powerful because we as readers are desiring that. Content is king. People always want good content, but today, more than ever in the history of writing, people want connection with you as an authority figure in your space more than almost anything other than content. So really excited. So I'd love to just drill down. Any other comments from you, of course, is welcome. I've got like three main questions that
Yeah.
I may poke you a little deeper, poke the bear a little bit more, but love to just jump right in with you. How's that sound?
I'm ready.
So we have the privilege of working with authors over the last 2 decades at various stages. Authors that have been, traditionally published and very, very successful, and authors that are like on their second or third book. But I have a very sweet spot for exactly where you are today, and that's that first-time author. And I'm passionate about first-time authors because somebody gave me a chance in the 90s when I wrote my first book. And not only did it absolutely change my career, it ended up absolutely changing my career because I was a banker back in the 90s, not a publisher, and ended up creating the publishing house on what I learned about the pros and cons of the various aspects of publishing. Very successful Wall Street Journal bestseller, but I would have none of this that we're having today if it wasn't for some organization giving me a chance as a first-time author. So very excited to talk about your experience as a first-time author. Do you remember back when the moment you held your published book for the first time? How did that feel?
Yes. It was such a surreal moment. It was such an exciting moment to literally feel. And that may sound weird to some people, but opening the box, first of all, seeing the cover that we worked so hard trying to, get together and did, I believe I've gotten so many compliments, by the way, on the cover image of my book. And I am grateful for Morgan James for helping me put that together. But the moment I opened that box and saw those books just stacked up, one, and one on top of the other, and lifted them out and felt them, opened the pages and kind of flipped through them. It was such a surreal moment. I don't think I had imagined how powerful that moment would be, but it was definitely so exciting.
It's cool because one of the things we did with your book, as you know, you were part of the decisions that we make, is we decided to use a matte finish instead of like a glossy finish. And the matte finish has a very subtle, I want to hold this longer feel. It's tactile. It has a very nice presence, but you don't know why or what it is. You hold it and you just want to keep holding it. So I love the way the book feels, specifically on how it feels. So I think you experience that same thing. Readers in the bookstore will hold it a little bit longer because it just feels so good.
It does, and it was amazing. Definitely an amazing experience. That unboxing moment I shared with my viewers, the followers on my social media platform as well, and that was just so exciting to see.
Yeah. I remember well, in fact, I think I did hashtag proud publisher on that post.
Yes, yes, I love that. Thank you so much.
I'm a man of few words. Not, I can control myself. So obviously, this is a great question. I know the answer. And in fact, part of our decision process really kind of reveals about what hopefully what you're getting ready to say when I ask this next question, because 80% of our decision as a publisher is you. You know, who are you? What are you doing and why? That's very, very important to us. And then how is the book connected to a bigger picture? Is like the icing on the cake, which you have. And then the book itself, it's got to be good. But you're the person that's driving the story, driving the connection, and creating that real engagement with the readers, which makes it really valuable. But what I want to know, and I want you to share with your audience a little deeper, is what inspired you to write Enough with the Secrets, Mama? And in that, were there any defining moments when you knew the story just absolutely had to be shared on a broader level?
Yes, absolutely. So I am a big believer that after healing comes responsibility, and I think you're understanding, and a lot of people when I tell them that are understanding of the fact that we have a greater responsibility to everyone around us. I'm a big believer in that, and so after I healed through the mother-daughter relationship issues I was experiencing in my life, I knew I had to turn back and pull others out of the mud and mire, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to do that because I felt in my heart just how deeply painful that was to go through life experiencing that difficulty. And so I feel like God speaks to me through people and through my interactions with people. So, with a lot of the work that I do in the community, I kept being led to conversations with people
Nice.
about this. Yes, about this topic. And I felt like it was a sign, like he was telling, like God was telling me and leading me, like, okay, this is the time where you need to share your story. So it was clear that the issue was something that others were struggling with as well, and that I indeed needed to just be vulnerable and transparent, which is totally that was a difficult process for me, but that's how I knew it was necessary. So that's how just being understanding of the fact that I needed to share my story, how that was kind of born. It's kind of like, how much more can I tell you to let you know that you need to do this?
Right. And I love that you were obedient to follow through, because a lot of us, a lot of humans didn't even know they're writers. They've got this feeling that they're called to write something, but they never follow through. And I think when God puts a seed in your heart, you've got to be obedient and follow through. So well done.
Yes, thank you.
So how has your life changed since the release of the book? Because now we're coming up on a year. And again, it's an exciting opportunity to have the book out and to survive the first year of all the craziness and chaos that it brings into your life. But how has your life changed since the book came out?
Yeah, so I have this saying that I have always said, and it's kind of like a motto, so to speak. It's not really a motto. I can't take credit for where this comes from, but in the "Thy will be done" prayer, there's this there's this saying in a song that I heard one time that says, "Make my feet to go wherever there is need."
Amen.
Um, and that is something that I have kind of lived by and lived through. So, knowing that and living that, I knew that God has literally sent people my way, placing people in my path and providing me with the opportunities to share this message, the message of healing. And so, I have been able to do that through podcasts, through speaking engagements. I've got my book cataloged in several libraries here in my county and outside of my county. I am now a column writer for a newspaper where I can kind of encourage people, thank you, in my community on advocacy and just coming together. which is a big part of what I believe in. Building relationships. I've been able to build relationships through the publishing of my book, growing my business, and most importantly, making an impact. I really have, if nothing more, enjoyed that, just knowing that I can somehow make an impact in someone's life or someone's organization, and be able to spread my message of healing. So that has definitely been life-changing for sure.
Oh, I see it. I see it in you for sure. And I tell you what, I love it. So well done. Keep up the good work. And as you know, as you're learning now daily, that nothing gives you more authority than the power of authoring a book and then connecting with your audience. But speaking of impact, I'd love to just deep dive a little bit more on impact, because you've had some really amazing things happen this year since the book came out. Like, one of the first things that comes to mind was you were featured in Times Square on a huge billboard. What a huge milestone. What was that like for you? What was that experience like for you?
I am very grateful for friends and newfound friends that have literally encouraged me. And so I actually was not going to go in person and see it. I was just going to say, I have friends who live in New Jersey, New York area. Can you please just go and take a picture for me? And so when I did say that, they looked at me like, what is wrong with you? Like, you need to see this for yourself. That moment was very emotional for me. Just seeing my book, that, something that I worked so hard for, really poured my heart and soul into it, displayed in lights in the middle of Times Square. It was a dream come true. And I actually, to be honest, never even had that as a part of a dream that I thought that would ever come to fruition. But that just goes to show you, God does, they say, infinitely more than you can ever imagine. And that definitely was one of those moments when I can say it was infinitely more than I could ever imagine. It was wonderful.
Oh, I bet. It was fun to see it come together. We watched the live stream, throughout the day, and just so excited to see that interactivity of you being there. So much fun. And I would say probably bigger than life, because the billboard was huge, but we're hoping thousands upon thousands and thousands of people saw it, and at least they got a glimpse of it. But part of that process is people need to see it 7 times or see you 7 times before they even think they've seen you before, to as many as 27 times before they remember, oh yeah, I wanted to connect with her. I wanted to buy the book, or I wanted to bring her in as a speaker. So you just standing up every day and just being a champion for the message and a champion for others is impactful. And just stay focused, stay encouraged, because the more you're out there, the more people you're going to impact. So wonderful. Well, I can't wait for one day my book to be on New York, Times Square. So I'll have to drive up there myself.
Yeah.
So have you noticed really any shifts in conversation about family trauma and healing since your book's released, now that you are the authority and accessible person in this space?
Absolutely. I have definitely noticed a shift within my family, most personally, because I'm realizing that me having the courage to share this and talk about something that is so often, just swept under the rug, gave my family members the courage to be able to establish boundaries, and how important that was. But I will say, right before, because a part of my proposal that I submitted to you guys was research, and I love research, by the way. We'll probably talk about that a little bit as we get into the actual writing of the book. But I noticed that the conversation was starting to be had as I was getting through the process of publishing the book, the editing process and everything. Once again, I kind of looked at that like a confirmation of, this is a very poignant conversation, is something to very, like, it was timely, is what people used to tell me all the time. This message is so timely because people were starting to have those conversations. And then with the release of my book, it really just kind of put it out there, definitely in the face of my friends and family, and then connecting with a lot of people. So it has definitely shifted the conversation that we're having on just being able to be true to ourselves, but also remaining flexible to the needs of others and finding freedom in that space. So I've definitely seen a shift for sure.
No, it's definitely a process you go through because as we teach authors, and you did this really well, is you started those conversations the moment you decided to write the book. Because that's the best time to start opening the door to kind of ease that conversation, get people really familiar with you being the right person, saying the right thing at the right time. And then the book is a great, easy way, affordable way for them to get connected to you. It's an awesome process. So that's exciting to hear. So what do you hope readers take away from your book? Once they now a year later, what's the main thing that you want them to hopefully take away from your book?
Yes, I want them to know that it's okay to stand in your truth, to lean on faith, and on those faith, like if I can speak, faith-filled hope. Lean on that faith-filled hope that things will work out as they should. um, our past doesn't determine our future, and
Amen.
so I think that it's important for people to take from this that healing is possible when you put in the work. That's the key. You got to put in the work, because healing, as much as I am a believer in miracles, I do also know that we have to put in the work when it comes to our lives, because I'm a big believer that God also gives us a purpose. He already has the plan. We don't know what that plan is. And in order to lead ourselves in that direction, we have to do the work, whether it's sitting, in time with meditation and prayer with him, and being able to listen to him more and where he's trying to guide us, or really sitting down in the midst of our feelings and our frustrations, and feeling that and knowing what to do next, because change doesn't happen unless you move your feet. So I think that's really, really important.
That's right. Very, very important. The taking action, moving your feet, but also the listening. We often forget that we may pray for things. We may try to, get our heart out there to the Lord. Of course, he already knows it, but sometimes we forget to just pause and wait for the answer and have patience for it too. So well done. Hey, so speaking of the writing process, what part of that writing process was the most rewarding to you?
Yeah, so this is what I knew we would have this conversation about the actual writing process, and this is where I'm excited, because there are so many writers who follow me on social media that I am excited about them getting an opportunity to listen to this conversation, because I often get asked these questions like, "How was the writing process?" It just seems so insurmountable. It seems so intimidating and overwhelming to think that you can accomplish this. But once I got down to it and stopped saying, I don't have time to sit and write, I really was most moved by the research aspect of it, because my book was really an understanding of where my mother came from, and how she became the woman and the mother that she was. It was important for me to dig into the past. And so I know that in knowing our past, that's the best way to shape our future. So digging into the research of how it was when she was growing up, what she experienced as a daughter, those things that shaped her into the person that she was, and in the mothers that she became to be, really granted me a lot of aha moments as I started looking into these things, and not just into her life in general, but the things around her, the things that were happening during the time that she was growing up, that influenced her behaviors, and the things that she decided to move on and do in her life. So that for me solidified redefining myself without the limited or restricted beliefs that I had created, with the perception that she wasn't giving me the love that I felt that I needed, and more so made me understand why. So that for me was the best part of the writing process, was the looking into the past and the researching.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. It's very, very important. People often get overwhelmed when they think they've got to do a little bit of research or when they think the book is so overwhelmingly, but you break it up into smaller pieces and just attack those pieces as you feel led. I remember writing my first book in 15-minute segments a couple times a week on the couch after a hard day's work. And it would end up being a stress reliever, but I really enjoyed deep diving into that. So I'm glad to see that you did the same thing. And nothing helps your foundation better than understanding, where all the parts of the story are coming together and where they've been. So I appreciate that. That's cool. Not surprised by that answer, but very cool. So continuing the writing process, what do you think that was or were there any scenes or chapters that were particularly difficult for you to write?
Yes, yes. This is where my editor made me cry.
Oh no. Been there.
Yes. And I say all the time that editors are like therapists, and they may not fully know it, but they really tell you, okay, I need you to dig deeper, and be a little bit more descriptive. The reader needs to be able to feel what you felt in this moment. And so the most difficult chapters for me were the grief-stricken parts of my story, whether that was grief due to loss of a loved one, loss of an opportunity, just loss in general. That was definitely difficult. So I have some chapters in my book where I speak of those things. And then at the beginning part of my book, the discussion of the experiences in childhood of child molestation, that was really difficult for me to relive and write in a way that the reader could understand and really put themselves into all the emotions that I was feeling in that moment, before and after. But I feel like I did a good enough job where my editor was like, this works, So yeah, those were definitely the difficult chapters for me. Certainly typing and crying, typing and crying. But I'm glad I did, because I know that there are so many women, so many people who have experienced the same. And for me, it was important to do that because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're grateful that you did, because it does add a level of connection to you that the readers really need and relate to what you're going through. So we're glad that you dug deep and stuck with it. And speaking of sticking with it, the process, the hard times, the tears, just the process itself, really, how did you stay motivated during that editing and publishing timeline? Because you know, to maybe the audience, it feels like, hey, I wrote a book. Here it is. It's all done. It's all neat and nice and packaged up here. I just started it yesterday. But that's not it at all. It's hey, I decided to write a book. Hey, I think I want to do this, and then it's a process for sure. What kept you motivated during that?
Yeah, the easy part of this process is the writing. That's the easy part, is just finally getting all the words down on paper. The hard part is the actual process, the publishing process, the editing process, the decision making, which is so hard to do when you've got a work that's so personal to you. And so for me, what helped me was forward thinking, just knowing that I was getting closer to a finished product, practicing humility in that process, knowing that true that some changes and receiving the constructive criticism, that it was all going to be for the better of an end result of a book that I would be proud of.
Yeah.
And so I had to really let go of control and trust the process, which, as I speak in my book, control was something I held on very, very dearly too. So it just taught me so much. It taught me a lot about myself, about my ability to just let go and know that there are people who are far more experienced than I am, who are speaking to me and giving me guidance, which is really what I have truly valued as a part of being a Morgan James publishing author, is to have the trust in the process, because I had people that I could trust to do it.
Yeah. Well, we're honored to have played a role in that early phase to the production to the release and then the years to come. But also, you're a phenomenal student. One of the things that we teach our authors, and you did this in spades, is, as I alluded a moment ago, the best time to start marketing a book is the moment you decide to write it, because then those close to you, maybe those physical circles, those social circles, will hold you accountable to finishing it. But then they become your cheerleaders, then become vested in this process with you, encouraging you down the path and eager to know where are you in the process, and when can I help out, or how can I help out? When do I buy the book? Where do I buy the book? And they just kind of keep you motivated during the process. So you don't have to do it all alone in a corner of your office or home or bedroom writing a book. It is designed to be very collaborative with your audience. And in fact, that's how most successful authors start, months in advance. So well done. So celebrating our 1 year milestone now. So what does this milestone mean to you personally and professionally? Because it doesn't sound to maybe a layperson, hey, the book came out a year ago, whatever, so what? But it is very significant, because a lot of authors will give up sometimes even before they finish the book. But then there's a lot of authors that give up in that publishing process, or it doesn't happen fast enough, or they don't get some of those initial accolades or bestseller statuses or book sales in those first months or even that first year that they had hoped for or expected. And it's funny, I've never met an author, of all the authors that we published and all the friends and authors I've met over the years, I've never ever met an author who is happy with their first year sales. Whether they're 90,000 or 90, it's a process and it is a long game. But it is a big milestone, because again, a lot of those authors that release the book, some of them just hit that wall and stop for whatever reason. But you have maintained that message, that passion, that enthusiasm to serve others. Your solutions-driven thinking has been very admirable and encouraging. So tell me a little bit more, because that's what it's mean to me to watch you go through this. But what does it mean to you personally and professional?
Well, it means a lot to hear you say that, because we know it's not easy. The first year publishing as a brand new author, the way I look at it is, most people will see my book and say, "Who is this person?" you know,
Right?
they don't know who I am. They've never heard of me. The thing that will grab them most would be the title of the book. They'll pick it up, they'll read it, they say, "Oh my God, this totally reaches me. But why should I buy this book? Like, I don't even know who this person is." So I had to really get over that aspect of it. But I'm glad that you spoke on that, because one thing that's really encouraged me is in a lot of the marketing calls that we've done, in the meetings that we have attended, the knowing that there are books that have been out there for 10, 12, sometimes 20 years that end up all of a sudden, reaching the hands of the right person, and boom, before you know it, your book has, reached far beyond what you thought it would. Knowing that tells me that anything is possible. And so that got me through the first year, because I said, okay, it's going to be whatever God wants it to be. It's going to reach the places that it's intended to reach. So professionally, it showed me that I'm capable of more than I could have imagined. That it confirmed for me my faith in our Creator, and in the power of what He's capable of accomplishing through my life. Personally, for me and my family, it's definitely been a kind of like a notch on the belt of my family legacy. That just shows bravery within the cultural dynamic, that, as immigrants we've experienced, and the vulnerability in sharing our story, albeit difficult, and ultimately just very rewarding for the healing of humanity as a whole. As cheesy as that sounds, I'm a big believer that we have to do something to make our mark, and to help establish, some kind of hope in other people, because especially now we're going through some trying times, and I know that personally a lot of people are being affected, not just by what's going on within our environment, but our own families. And so I knew that I just had to be vulnerable to be able to give some hope, especially to immigrant families, to know that things are possible.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you for sharing. So I've got a tough question for you next, and we're almost done. Tough question. So if you could describe your first year as an author in 3 words, what would they
My first year as an author, I would say, has been transformative, courageous,
be? Yeah.
and impactful.
Yeah.
Yes,
Isn't that amazing? That's probably what you had hoped for when the book first started to develop in your head. And look at it's
absolutely.
happening now. Oh,
Ab-
in only 1 year. What you said
Only.
only, yeah, right. But what you said a moment ago is so true. Books across the different genres often will have this, steady little rise or steady sales, and then something happens in the environment, the world, the author's life, that there's this hockey stick curve. It's like all of a sudden it goes. And sometimes it could be, the first few months of publishing, rarely. Sometimes it could be the first year. Sometimes it could be 7, 8, 9 years later. Some authors are having a huge impact decades after the book came. And it's an exercise in patience and persistence. But yeah, well done. Well done. So, Miss Incredible, as I'd love to call you, what is the next step for you? Do you have any plans for another book or new projects in the works that we can get all excited about together with you?
Yes, yes, I do. I mean, I think creators are always looking to create in some way, shape, or form. So, definitely plans for another book, several even. Yes, I have gotten really in response to this book, to Enough with the Secrets, Mama. I get often, okay, like I need more. I want to know more, about your family and what's happened next. But for my mom specifically, this actually has allowed her to share more. So I've got tons of stories that I'm getting from her now that I had no idea about. And this book did that. It really opened up the door to conversation where, when you think about it, came full circle for me because we weren't having conversations. And so this literally opened that door. So the first year was marketing focused. I went hard. I said, I have to do everything possible I possibly can to make sure that this book is seen and heard and it's out there. So I've been pushing. My second year, what I am focusing on is being able to just do more to get it out there in different spaces. So a TED talk, fingers crossed and prayers in for an application recently I submitted for that. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping to be able to I'm not necessarily speaking specifically about my book, but certainly a message I think would tie in.
Yeah.
Just more media opportunities, big author festivals, connecting and expanding my reach, being on more stages, more, I would say, recent or coming up a lot sooner would be the Spanish translation of my book that people have literally been waiting a year for, to be honest. Um, so I need to make that happen because I have gotten just so many requests for that. And then I want to be able to do a guided journal, some kind of a workbook, and just workshops to speak a little bit more on these issues.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, keep that thinking alive, because we've learned over the decades of our publishing history is that your audience, at least 20% of them, are going to be begging for more. They want more from you. So the TED Talk, the keynote speeches, the workbook, the journaling, the new books, the Spanish editions, the other language editions, all they'll be clamoring for. So I'm always encouraging authors to do exactly what you just said. Keep thinking. I always say at least 2 products ahead, because your audience want them. But the writing does get in your blood, and that serving, that heart continues to grow, and you've just got to keep going and keep getting it out there. So that's wonderful to hear. Man, Lynn, I am so appreciative of this time with you. Thank you so much for sharing this 1 year anniversary. And I'm honored as the publisher to be, still playing and hopefully a good role with you. And it's exciting to see the change you're creating, the impact that you're having. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you more than you will ever know
Oh,
for every conversation, for always making yourself available. I don't think many people can say that about their their publishing companies. Just the fact that you called me on the day of my book's release was amazing. I know I'm to expect a call from you on year one officially, because you're just that kind of person, and I just think that this is more of a family to me than it's been a contractual business deal, so to speak. um
yeah.
and that's what makes it even more special. That's what makes me want to, if you think about it, you always want to make your family proud, right? um so this is how I feel as a Morgan James author, is like I just want to make them proud because you believed in me. And I really, there are no words that can express how much that means to a first time author.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, you are making us proud abundantly.